Hi everyone, Richard from Arcible here. We're back with another one of our Microsoft Teams tips. This week we're going to be covering what's the difference between an online meeting and a live event and when you might want to use the two. So before we get into this week's video, we just wanted to cover 2 points quickly. So point one was the last two videos haven't been quite as good as we would have hoped. So apologies for that, and if you're still with us, then thank you. If you think this video is better, then please hit the like button and let us know in the comments down below. The second thing that we wanted to cover this week was just some announcements and changes that have come into Microsoft Teams. So depending on how your organisation has configured Microsoft Teams, you may have already started to see the new video calling experience coming in, and what that's going to give you is being able to see up to 9 participants on the screen at a time, as opposed to 4, which we had previously. So whereas previously they were arranged 2 by 2, they're now going to be arranged 3 by 3. The display for that will change automatically based on the number of people that are in the call and the number of people that are sharing video. So you should start to see that soon if you haven't already. The other feature that's newly available in Microsoft Teams now is the raise hand feature. So what this feature allows you to do is to virtually raise your hand during a meeting, and you can use that when you're on mute as part of a meeting to signal to the meeting organizer or one of the meeting presenters that you've got something to add or something that you want to say, and you can unmute yourself at the appropriate time. That's obviously going to be especially useful if you've got kids or animals running around in the background with you. Okay, so on to the main event then for this instalment of Microsoft Teams tips. So in the last 2 episodes, we've covered getting you used to some of the features in an online meeting with other participants. But depending on how Microsoft Teams has been set up for you, you might have also seen that there's an option there called Live Event. And you might be wondering what that is and what the difference between that and a regular online meeting is. So an online meeting is designed for multiple people to be able to participate in a call together. Everybody can talk, everybody can chat, and it's kind of collaborative. A live event is designed to be a one-way broadcast messaging system. So, if you think of television, or if you work in a large organization where your sort of senior leadership or senior executive team do briefings out to the whole company, then live events is a really good way to be able to do this. And so the main difference between a live event and an online meeting is that in a live event there's one person that essentially is the producer and is running and organizing the live event. Everybody else that joins the live event joins as an attendee, and you have no option to be able to share your video, share your screen, or chat publicly with other participants. There is a feature within live events called moderated Q&A, and what the moderated Q&A feature allows is for you to post questions. Those are posted privately initially, and then somebody within the live event that's got permission to view those questions and those comments can publish them so that others can see what you've posted, and they can also reply. So again, if we go back to that example of sort of senior leadership or executives giving an organization-wide briefing, then you might have a question that you want to pose, so you can post that in the moderated Q&A, and then the idea is that will get picked up, read out, and answered for everybody else to hear. So what we're going to do is we're going to jump over to the PC now, and we're going to show you what it looks like to set up a live event, and some of the differences just to watch out for with using live events versus a regular online meeting. So we hope you enjoy. Okay, so we're on the PC and we've got Microsoft Teams open, and we've already jumped over into the calendar app where normally you would hit the new meeting button to set up a new online meeting. So today we're talking about live events. So the way that we access this is where the new meeting button is, we can click the drop down arrow next to it and we see the option there for live event. Now if you don't see the option here for live event, that means that your ability to create live events has been disabled by your administrator, so you should go and speak to them about getting that turned back on for you, as it is on by default. So when we hit the new live event button, we're presented with the event setup page. Now, it's very similar to creating a new online meeting. We give it a title. So in this case, we're going to call this Virtual CEO Town Hall, because this is going to be a live event for our CEO to give a presentation to the company. Location, we can leave that blank. We can type something in there. We're just going to set that to say online, because this is going to be happening online. We set the date and time that we want the live event to occur, and in the box below we can provide some info. So we'll just type something in here just as a bit of a note. Okay, so over on the right hand side here we can see that myself, Richard Green, I've already been added here as a producer. And as we mentioned earlier on in the video, the producer is the person that essentially is running the live event. So they're the person that's going to be controlling what people in the audience that are dialing in and attending the live event can see. If we click on the drop down next to producer, we can see that there's another option here, which is presenter. And so a presenter, in the sense of a live event, is going to be a person that is going to be sharing their screen, sharing their webcam so that you can see their face, or some other kind of media. Now, the difference between a presenter in a normal online meeting and a live event is that even once somebody who is a presenter starts to share their screen, the people in the audience aren't automatically going to see that, and we'll show you what that looks like in just a minute. So for now, we'll leave this just as myself with the producer, because a producer can also be a presenter, and we'll hit next. Now, immediately now, we're given the option to set the permissions. So who do we want to be able to attend this live event? So if we only want certain people to be able to access it, we can obviously choose this top option and set that to people and groups. Or if we want everybody in the organisation to be able to access it, we can choose this middle option for org-wide, and that is the default. Now, to control this, the users will be required to sign in with their Office 365 account from Azure Active Directory, so that we can verify that they're part of the organisation. There is also the option, if enabled by your IT administrator, to make this a public live event. And if you do create a public live event, then what that means is that no authentication will be required. So anybody will be able to access the live event if they've got the link for it. So use that option if it's appropriate and applicable, but obviously please be careful with it, because it means that you don't necessarily know who's going to be accessing that. And because they're not going to be signed in or authenticated, you won't be able to see names or who they are. So if we scroll down, we've got some additional options here. So we've got the option to say whether or not the recording will be available afterwards. So, you know, this, in the case of a CEO town hall, might be especially useful if you were using a live event in education, as maybe a university, to provide a lecture to students. Then you might want to make the recording available to people so that they can come back and review it later. Captions, this is currently a preview feature, but it is a very interesting one, and we have been on some live events where captions have been used and seen them working. So what captions allows is using some artificial intelligence built into Microsoft Teams. It will automatically provide closed captions for whoever's speaking. Now, what's really powerful about this is that the closed captions can be shown to the audience in non-native language to the speaker. So you could, for example, have a speaker that is perhaps French or German, but you have attendees that only speak English, so you want them to be able to understand. So in the spoken language drop-down, we can pick the language that the person that's going to be talking and delivering the live event will be using. And then in the translate to option underneath, we have a whole list of languages here that we can pick from, and those are the languages that will be available for the captions for the participants. Attendee engagement report, that's going to allow you to see after the event how many people were in the event, and you know, obviously useful information like that, so that you can, you know, determine whether people did join the call, whether they found it useful, and whether they, you know, it's kind of worth doing these in the future. And earlier on in the video, we already mentioned the moderated Q&A feature. So that's this tick box here, Q&A. And if we tick that and turn that on, then that's going to enable the moderated Q&A feature. But what we would say about the Q&A is only enable it if you actually are able to monitor and moderate the Q&A, because otherwise what will happen is attendees joining the live event will be posting questions, but they won't be getting picked up or getting answered. Now, what we didn't cover is this top option here where it says Teams, and that setting is going to determine how the live event is being produced. Now, the default option is Teams, and that's probably the option that most people are going to be using. However, if you're in some kind of production studio or really kind of sort of professional environment, what you can actually do is select this next option down, which is external app or device. And what that option is going to allow you to do is it's going to allow you to ingest and bring in video streams and audio streams from external sources and have Microsoft Teams sort of relay those out to the attendees. So we're not going to cover that in this video because the focus really is just around Teams, so we're going to leave that top option selected. Lastly, we've got a box here where we can provide a custom support URL. So if this was a public event where you've got unknown participants joining the meeting, then you might want to provide them with a custom link to your website where they can get support for joining the live event. Now, the last thing just to discuss is before we hit the schedule button, what you'll notice is when we specified the producers and the presenters, we didn't specify any attendees. And now the reason for that is with a live event, you only configure the producer and the presenters in the meeting on the actual live event. We get a separate link that we'll use to send out to the people that we want to join the meeting. So please don't send the live event itself directly out to attendees. We'll show you how to do that in just a second. So we'll hit the schedule button, and this is going to get this put into our calendar. Okay, so with our virtual CEO town hall live event now created, you can see the confirmation page that's on the screen right now. So we've got all the details that we entered initially. However, what we've now got that's important is this option up here where it says get attendee link. So if we click that, that's going to automatically copy that to the clipboard. And what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to keep that safe somewhere, because that's the link that we're going to need to send for attendees to be able to join the call. And remember, that's separate to the link that will go into the calendar of the producer and the presenters for the meeting. So if we jump into Outlook just quickly, and we'll paste that new link in there, you can see that we've got a new Microsoft Teams link. We can send that out to our attendees. Now, you might choose to send that out via email. You could post it into a Teams channel. So if you've got an org-wide team, you might want to post it into there. Maybe you've got a group calendar that you've created in SharePoint, or maybe your organization uses Yammer or some other kind of broadcast for people to pick up these notifications and links. However you want to send it out is obviously entirely up to you, but just do make sure that that's the link that you send and not the link to the meeting itself. Okay, so what we can do is we can hit close, and that's just going to take us back to our calendar. So what we're going to do now,
we're back to our calendar,
we're going to join
Microsoft
the live
Teams,
event,
and
just so
we
that
can
you can see how it differs
that we
from a
created
normal meeting.
just here. So if we click on that, that's going to take us back to the same screen that we were at previously. So if we do need to get that attendee link again, we can. But what we've also got, importantly, is we've got the join button. So let's click that so that we can join the live event as the producer. So we get the familiar pre-join screen as we do with a normal Microsoft Teams online meeting. So just for now, while we're doing the recording, I'm going to leave my video and audio turned off. So we'll hit join now, and it'll take us in. Okay, so as you can see, the screen is slightly different to that of a normal online meeting. So what we see is at the top, we see the title, the time, the number of people that are currently attending the meeting, and we see this message here to say pre-live. Now what pre-live is telling us is we're in the meeting, but we haven't actually yet technically started it. So if somebody was to join the meeting now, they would see a waiting screen that basically says, the meeting hasn't started yet, hold on, it will start soon. So what we've got in the two halves of the screen in the center is one section that's labeled queue, and we have another section that's labeled live event. So the queue on the left is what allows us to queue up someone's screen or some other type of shared content to get it ready to make it live for people to see. And obviously what's great about this is we can have one person presenting and actually doing something live now, while maybe a second presenter is kind of getting geared up and getting their screen sharing going. Once you've got something in the queue, you then have this button underneath that says send live, and what that will do is that will make whatever's currently in the queue waiting to go live available and live for everybody else to see. So what we can do while we're in this meeting now is we can hit the share button, and we get the usual options like we see in a normal online meeting to share our desktop, share a window, an app, or something else. So what I'll do is if I hit share my screen, and then if I click this, it should just take me back into the screen we were at before. There we go. So I've now started sharing my screen, and we can see now that at the bottom here under content, we've got this option here that says my desktop. As you can see, it hasn't actually gone into the queue yet. So what we have to do is we have to move this into the queue to make it ready. And the reason for this is we could have multiple people presenting and getting themselves ready to show their screens. So we as the producer get to choose what goes out and when. So we can click the content that we're currently sharing, my desktop, and we can see that that's now moved up into the queue. What we also now see is that the send live button has lit up. So if I hit send live now, what you're going to see is my desktop screen share has now moved into the right hand side because we've made that the active feed for the live event. So now that we've got an active feed in the live event, you'll see that the start button is also lit up. So what that now means is we can actually start the live event, and people that are attendees currently joined will be able to start seeing whatever is in the right hand half of the screen under live event. But remember, we can start queuing up a second stream or a second screen share in the queue before making it live. What I'm going to do is I'm going to stop sharing this just for now and show you some of the other things that we have available here. So up in the top right hand corner, we can see that we've got this little graph symbol for health and performance. And if we click that, that's going to allow us to view some statistics about the health of the meeting. Now, one thing to bear in mind with live events is that everything is driven and controlled by the performance of the person that is the producer. So you need to make sure that whoever's the producer of a live event has got sufficient internet bandwidth and a decent internet connection to be able to support delivering this. Okay, and as you can see here, it's showing that the estimated send bandwidth is 2.1 megabits per second. So that's how much my upload on my internet connection should be to be able to cope with sharing out this stream. The second icon in here is show Q&A. So this is the moderated Q&A that we talked about. So when people post questions into here, you'll see that they'll appear on this tab here called New. Once questions have been posted, you'll see them in here. You can respond to them from here, and then optionally you can also publish them out so that other people can see them. When you're finished and your live event is over, there's obviously the leave button up in the top right just here. And once we click that, the live event will be ended, and that's a wrap.
Okay, well that's it for this week's Microsoft Teams tip. We hope you found that useful, and we hope that you now know what you need to do to get started and use live events in Microsoft Teams. So in the next tip that's going to be coming up, we're going to be discussing chat and messaging and some of the features and options that you've got to use that. There's a slight change for this week. We're also going to be releasing another video. This video is going to be targeted at Microsoft Teams administrators. So if you're new to administering Microsoft Teams, then you might find this useful, because we're going to look at how you can use Microsoft PowerShell and the command line options for administering and creating policies to assign and manage users. If you watched our last tip on managing meeting permissions so that users can control who can present during a meeting, this is actually now available as a policy that you can assign and set centrally. So if that's of interest to you, then please definitely check that out. You'll see the icon or the link for that video on the screen at the end of this video if you want to continue watching that. If you have enjoyed this tip this week, then please do like the video. And if you have any comments or anything that you'd like to see us talk about in the future, then let us know in the comments down below. Alternatively, you can reach out to us on Twitter or Facebook and drop us a message and let us know what you'd like to hear us talk about or see us demo in the future. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you again soon. Bye bye.